Welcome to the Clear the Shelf podcast with Chris and Chris, the show that meets at the intersection of education and entertainment to discuss online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, and all facets of selling on Amazon. We'll bring you news, tactics, strategies, insights, stories, and interviews to help you grow your Amazon business. And now, here are your hosts, Chris Grant and Chris Reselling. What's up, Amazon sellers, and welcome back to the Clear the Shelf podcast with myself and my Batrachian co-host, Chris Reselling. Today, we have Sadeq on the pod. He's a young guy who started selling shoes on StockX and GOAT and made the switch to online and retail arbitrage on Amazon. From what I can see, he's growing at a pretty rapid pace. I know the last time I checked in, he was currently over $200,000 per month, and if I'm not mistaken, just back in May or June, you were like at 120,000 in sales. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So in this episode, we're going to try to learn what Sadeq is doing right to help you in your Amazon business, but also want to learn from some of the mistakes that he's made to help you and us, honestly, kind of sidestep those. Sadeq, I'm glad you came on the show, man. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, 100%. I love this podcast. I watch all the episodes, so it's kind of cool to be on the other side now.
I appreciate that. So one of the things is you always seem so positive, in the comments. I see you on our lives. I see you in the podcast episodes. I see you on Twitter. And so I'm probably going to want to talk a little bit about mindset with you as well. But before we dive in, you guys know the drill. It takes us minutes to get ready for this show. So if you find some value in this episode, do us a solid. Hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast player or on YouTube. Leave us a review. Leave us a comment. The only way for us to get this podcast out there to more people is to tickle the algorithm in the way that the platforms like, and that's how you do it. So, all right. Let's dive in. Sadeq, we've got a ton of questions to throw your way today and try to kind of figure out how you've grown your business at what I think a lot would consider as a pretty young age. I actually don't know exactly how old you are. And I also want to talk a little bit about positivity and your mindset, because I think you seem to be more positive than a lot of the people on the internet. And it's a little bit more pronounced lately. But yeah. Before we dive into that, I always want to kind of set the table a little bit. What got you into selling on StockX and GOAT, and how did that kind of transform into selling on Amazon?
Yeah, of course. So basically, when I was 16 years old during lockdown, I was looking for like an extra way to make money online or any other way than a job, because I played basketball all my life. I was playing varsity sports in high school, and that takes up like a lot of time. You have school, you have the varsity sports, which were like 3 hours per day with practices and games and whatnot. Then I would have homework, and I knew I just wanted to make, some money on the side for clothes, food, like whatever I wanted, like normal, high school kid things. So I was looking for ways to make money. I was selling candy in 8th grade. I was doing like Amazon to eBay drop shipping in 9th grade, and then I stumbled upon like sneaker reselling by just like simple YouTube searching of like looking for ways to make money. Stumbled upon like a leads list group that were basically just providing leads to StockX and GOAT, and that was during like the whole lockdown boom. So everything was selling, everything was so profitable. I got in there, made some of my first money there, did it for around 2 years, and then as it slowed down, as things cooled off after lockdown, and then me and my buddies were like, "Oh, this Amazon thing looks pretty cool. It's pretty similar to what we're doing now, basically online arbitrage, but instead of StockX, GOAT, and eBay, we're doing it to Amazon." So we all made the switch around August of 2022.
Nice. So I want to step back for just a second, because I want to talk to an audience of one, and that audience is my son. You mentioned that you were selling candy and things like that. My son had his first day of 5th grade the other day, and I said to him, I said, "Hey, man," I said, "why don't we go to Costco before your first day of school? Let's load up on the 5 most popular candies according to the internet." And I was like, "and why don't you sell them at school, at recess, at lunchtime, things like that?" And he was like, "well, how do I even get customers?" And I was like, dude, you give them a little free taste on the first day, okay? And We were actually out at a store when I was having this conversation with him, and this guy turns around and says to my son, he's like, you listen to that man. He says that's marketing. But my son was like, well, I have to ask the teacher first. And of course he was told no. So I'm curious, did you ever get in trouble for that? What made you think about selling candy at school? Because that seems to be a very common thing among entrepreneurs, is some sort of, hustle at school, whether it's selling candy or pencil toppers or whatever it is.
Yeah, basically, I was in middle school and I was on the basketball team again, and I wanted these like new Steph Curry shoes that came out. So, and my parents already bought me shoes before for like the beginning of the year. So like I gotta figure out a way to make some money. So I started selling candy because what kid doesn't love candy?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to BJ's with my mom, where we bought like some of the bulk candy, like the variety packs and whatnot. I was just selling them for like $1 or $2, and then just making money there. And I never got caught, surprisingly.
Nice. I'm gonna have my son listen to just this portion of the episode and tell him to get to it.
Well, they do groom you a bit, right? It is a common fundraiser is selling candy, so they kind of wire us that way at an early age. So what would they really expect us to do? Sadeq, I want to talk about your business model, your current business model. You scaled very quickly, as we'll dive into a little bit later. But what's the mix right now? Are you still 100% online arbitrage? Is there any retail arbitrage, wholesale, any private label? What's the mix look like right now?
It's just 100% OA.
Can you talk about like when you first branched in? How are you finding the store? How were you able to scale just doing 100% OA? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, at the very beginning when I was starting, like I kind of already had like the reselling background, the online arbitrage background, like I was telling you guys from StockX and Go. I knew my way around like a good amount of sites already, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't translating or clicking for me right away. But I had the same buddies I started StockX, Go, and eBay with to switch over to Amazon. I didn't find a lead for like the first month. They were just like feeding me because they were better than me, I guess, right? But like over time, I obviously picked up some slack and was sending it leads to them as well. But yeah, from there, you just have to, you need your first couple of starter leads to figure out what works well, what doesn't. You need to reverse source a lot, because that's basically what I was doing. Because from there, you figure out brands that work well, you figure out where they're getting it from, you figure out what discount codes other sellers are using, and then you play to your advantages there, because now you have that information, and those sales come around pretty often. So you just hammer them when they do.
I hate to call myself or say your generation, but I'm a little bit older than you, and I think we are just in different generations. But something I notice, and something that I love about guys your age, is I always hear, oh, me and the guys, or me and the group chat and things like that. Among some of the sellers who have been on Amazon a little bit longer, a little bit more tenured, it was never like that. It wasn't like that when I started. There were groups and there were people who might help you answer questions, but there weren't people hopping on Zooms or getting into group chats with each other to share leads and things like that. What is it about your generation that makes you so cooperative?
I got to give some credit to like Miles and Warner there. Like they pushed it pretty heavily of like networking and all that stuff, because it is true. You cover a lot of ground quicker when you're moving with other people. Like I have a buddy named Jack, JTP Sneaks on Twitter. I've shared every single lead I've ever bought with him, basically, and vice versa. We just move so much quicker, and the buy box can either rotate between you and like some randoms, or you and your friends. So like it's up to you. And yeah, you share what works well with you and your business, and they'll share what's working well for them, and you guys just exchange and grow a lot quicker that way.
Nice. Yeah, I respect that. I agree with it. I wish it happened more often, especially among some of the people who've been on Amazon a bit longer. Now, talking about that, I mean, I know that networking is incredibly important, and I know you're on Twitter. I see you in lives. How has the Amazon community kind of helped you in your business? And then I got a follow up to that.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of guys who like were before me. Like Jeff is a guy I talked to. I know you guys had him on. I ask him questions here and there. He's very experienced. There's a lot of people in the space that have a lot more information than me, and I want to like be friends with them, share what's working well with me, what's working well with them. I'll receive back. Um, and yeah, it's basically there's people with more information than me, and I just want to be a student of the game and learn as much as I can. So
Yeah.
you get your name out there a little bit more, and people like start to respect the fact that you're legit. You're showing up every day. You know, you're trying to grow your business.
Mm-hmm. And how do you make the time to make sure that you are spending enough time on your business and not just spending all your time building relationships? Do you have like I spend X amount of time every day trying to chat with people and I spend X amount of time, working on my business, or how do you kind of break that up?
Yeah, I prioritize sourcing in the morning first. Like one of the guys I listen to a lot coming up with Soros, and he said basically you just need to source 90 minutes every day. You be consistent with that, you're gonna have a nice healthy business. Um, and that's basically what I do. I do that every single morning. As long as I get that done, I get my like random admin tasks here and there done. I mean, the rest of the day is kind of free for me to, go on Twitter, go on social media, talk to the boys, like all that stuff.
Nice.
There's something about sourcing in the morning. If you can get a batch of inventory on its way into your pipeline, it
Yep.
feels so much better. I think it's a hack. So I'm with you there. Now, Sadeq, as far as the networking, before we move on from that,
Mhm.
like they say, the rising tide lifts all boats, right? But undoubtedly, there's one of the boats is going to have a hole in the hull, and not everybody succeeds at the same level and whatnot. So, being as connected as you are, as with your network and being in tune with the community, I want to know the people that don't succeed. Have you seen anything that they don't take to as well? What do you think they do wrong? Why did you succeed and others maybe don't?
I think it's just consistency, to be honest. Like there's enough people that I know coming up, especially around my age, where they make their first like sum of money and then they just go blow it, or they go like buy a car, or they go, do like random things like that and they just spend their money and they kind of lose the motivation for the business because they got the money they were after and they just, stop being consistent with the business, stop sourcing every day, stop hopping on calls and things like that. I mean, I'm at 2 years at this point in the business. I still haven't taken a dollar out. Like I'm still compounding that massive snowball, and I just want to keep scaling.
Nice. And I know you mentioned Miles and Warner.
Yep.
Do you have any other mentors or any role models in the business? It doesn't necessarily have to be Amazon. It could be business related or entrepreneurial.
Soros Empire was like the other one I was mentioning a little bit earlier. I just liked his model of he was doing like sneakers and apparel primarily, and that's kind of what I was doing too because it was just natural from StockX, Goat, and eBay. And I also liked how most of his business was outsourced, and he's not really in the day to day anymore. It's ran by his team, and I really, really, really like that model. And he's all OA, so I just try to listen and soak up as much information I could from him.
What about from a personal aspect? Like what you haven't taken a dime out after years and after some impressive orange bars. What keeps you grounded? Does that come naturally? Is that how you were raised, or is that a concept that you picked up along the way somewhere?
No, definitely how I was raised, 100%. I don't know. I don't really like the flashy stuff and all. Like I don't need that. I'd rather just be like comfortable, have a lot of money in the bank, know I have options of whatever I want to do in the future. And that's kind of what I'm striving for in the next couple of years too. Is even if I choose to stop Amazon or whatever, I have a lot of money. I'll have a great network to go pivot with.
Nice.
Chris, that's refreshing, isn't it, Chris? Like the negativity kind of gets amplified, because the loudest voices aren't always the majority. So it's refreshing to hear.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I'm gonna take this another way for just a moment because
Yep.
I love Amazon, but I'm fascinated by the entrepreneurial journey and entrepreneurs in general. But you said, yeah, maybe in a few years I might pivot to something else. Do you have something in mind that maybe you want to add on, or maybe you just want to do as you get older and maybe don't want to do Amazon anymore?
I'm still exploring a lot of options. I listened to My First Million, which is like a massive entrepreneurial podcasts, and I'm so inspired by those guys. It's a bunch of 7 to 9 figure guys, some billionaires that go on it too, right? And they all made their way with entrepreneurship, and they have like things to share that they learned along the way. So I like listening to that a lot. In terms of the next couple of years of where I want to pivot to, I know I said all from Amazon, but I really meant like a different model. I would like to do private label or something of that sort eventually.
Nice. Yeah, that's so I'm always curious because like I find myself, scrolling biz buy sell.
Yep.
And the other day I asked my wife, I was like, would you be upset if I go buy a gas station? It's just I love all things entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
All right, so back to Amazon. Sourcing is obviously it's what drives any Amazon business. But it also, like you mentioned, took you a month to find your first lead. It's probably the biggest bottleneck for like rookie and sophomore sellers on Amazon. So I want to dive into your mind a little bit. And can you tell us like what strategies you use to source products for Amazon in your business?
Yeah, at the very beginning, it was 100% reverse sourcing. I was just trying to figure out what brands were good, what categories were good, what sites they were getting it from, what discount codes can I use. And all while I was doing that, I was talking to the guys I transitioned StockXO and eBay with. So we were literally just combining heads at all times. We were moving a lot quicker. We learned a lot of stuff a lot quicker. I didn't even know how to read a Keepa chart for the first month as well. Like I was just trying to figure it all out, and they were just helping me along the way. So it just sped up the learning curve a lot quicker. And then from there, as you finally do become familiar with these websites, when they run sales, what coupons you can use, what evergreen coupons you can use, even when there's like a downtime of not a ton of sales, you're building like a very good business there because it's repeatable tasks and like all those evergreen coupons you have. And once you really do get to that point of, hey, I know these sites like the back of my hand. I mean, I'm 100% manual at this point.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like there's not necessarily a lot of secrets.
No.
They're all kind of out there. Stack the discounts, make sure you've got coupon codes, make sure you're sourcing sales, build up a list. And then I mean the biggest secret that maybe nobody wants to admit to is you just need to put time in behind the keyboard.
Yep.
Yeah. So we talked about stacking discounts, so I'm sure the amount of inventory that you're purchasing is a lot discount based, sale based. But overall, do you have any general rules on how you decide to go deep? Because you can't be 5 and 10 at a time doing 200,000, right? How do you decide what to buy a little more of when you pull the trigger?
Yeah, it's gonna depend on like the seller amp rank and the Keepa charts. If the offer count's moving a ton, I'll probably will go a little bit deeper. If the rank is 1K and like I can see the offer count's like moving a ton, I'll probably buy a lot more than 10. But I mean, for the newer things, newer categories, things I probably haven't bought before, it will be like the 10 to 50 range, just so I can test it. And that way I can look back at my data later and know if I should go deeper or not. If I buy 100 units and I expect it to sell in 4 weeks and it sells out in 6 days, I'm going to go way, way, way deeper if I can get that buy cost again for that same ASIN.
10 to 50 is a lot different than what a lot of people are willing to test with. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do 5 or 10. That's interesting. If there was one tool that you think every seller needs to have in their toolbox, and I probably know the answer to this, but
yeah,
one tool, what is it?
Keepa, I think is the only right answer there.
Yeah, I figured. What is your favorite thing to look at when you're looking at a Keepa chart?
I like price stability and I like the offer count movement a lot. Price stability, just because if I'm buying something now and I'm shipping it to FBA, it's probably not going to get there and be available to sell for another 3 or 4 weeks. I want to know whatever price I'm looking at now is likely going to be the price I get in 3 or 4 weeks from now, right? And then offer count movement's huge as well. If something's just a straight line, it's probably not selling as well as something with like a ton of like rapid movement up and down.
Mm-hmm. When you're looking at the price movement of a product, what are you paying most attention to? Are you looking at the past 30 days, the past 90, the past year? You're looking at the overall life of the product and seasonality. What are kind of the important points that you're looking at there?
Yeah, quick look. I like just looking at the 3 months. I want to make sure that lowest price of the buy box I'm still profitable at, regardless if it returns back to that price or not, and it still meets my criteria. And then if it's like a seasonal product, like we're in back to school season, like backpacks, I want to see what it did last year. Doesn't mean it's always going to perform the same, but I at least want to know, hey, that volume's there. If, the price going up after people sell out and the offer count shoots down.
Is there something that you think scares away new sellers that maybe is unwarranted? Do you have any kind of like counterintuitive sourcing skills that you can share?
Yeah, not too high BSR, but like I don't know, the 2 to 400,000 range. Like some of those stuff still move very well, and for fat profits. And I see a lot of people stick under that 100K just because for like beginners that is a good rule of thumb under 100K because they want quick moving inventory. They want to, see success in the business. They want that proof of concept. That's fine, but like the 2 to 400K range, I know a lot of people stay away from. I did too at first, but there's some gems in there, and I don't shy away from it anymore.
Yeah, using 100,000 is it's a little deceiving, especially once you start and look and see what the size of these categories are. 100,000 is a much different percentage of one category versus another category. So, yeah, that's a rule that rookies probably need to jettison faster than they do. I would agree with that.
And another thing I want to add there too, like a 200K rank, and it's like the top variation it could literally be a lot better than a 10K rank bottom variation. Like it could literally move a lot quicker, and you just have to look at all that stuff of price history, offer count movement, and things like that.
Thank you for listening to the Clear the Shelf podcast. My magnanimous co-host Chris Rasick has put together a gift for you for being a listener. It's called the Monthly Goal Tracking Spreadsheet, and it's free. The spreadsheet will help you break down and track how much you've purchased, which should be a leading indicator of how much you will sell, and then you'll be able to track how much you've sold as well as your estimated monthly profit on a daily basis. This will all feed into the daily averages so you can ensure that you're on track to meet your goals each and every month. Grab it for free today over at cleartheshelf.com/goal-tracking. Thanks again for being a listener. Now back to the show. Do you have like a framework that you use when it comes to your sourcing criteria? Like I need to hit this minimum ROI. We talked about sales rank already. But if you could just give your framework to someone else who's starting out, what would that look like?
Yeah, so it's normally 30% ROI and $5 profit for most categories. If it's known to have a higher return rate, like appliances or like sneakers and apparel, I typically will shoot for $40. And if getting in more specific, for shoes, it's a 40% ROI, $15 profit per unit, just to account for all the returns and all the fees you don't get back per return. So that's typically where I like to hang around.
Nice. And do you change any of that criteria, based on the season or any other market trends that you might see?
Not really, no. I typically like to stick to the 40% ROI, $15 profit per on shoes, and then 30% across most categories.
Awesome.
Have you noticed, as far as like trends go, and this can be, from your personal, your personal eye or the industry overall. Have you noticed any recent trends in online arbitrage sourcing, such as like categories that maybe you've moved away from or you were looking to get more into? And how do you adjust to, fluctuations like that?
Yeah, the only trend I see that I'm trying to get away from is the beauty, just because a lot of those brands are getting shut down, hard gated, and all that stuff. I don't want to end up with a couple hundred units or end up losing money there. Obviously, it's a great category, low return rate, decent profits, a bunch of stores. But I mean, there's a ton of people like losing their inventory and not able to sell it anymore. So I just want to make sure I pivoted early. Like earlier this year, I just stopped selling a lot of it. That way I don't get screwed over later.
Do you ever reassess your sourcing strategies or your criteria, or has it changed as you've become a more mature seller or kind of grown? Like how are you sourcing differently now than when you started?
Yeah, so I'm all manual now versus reverse sourcing from right from the beginning. So that's how the method changed. In terms of sourcing criteria, I was like 30 to 35% ROI shoes, $10. Because like I mean that was what I was told from the Discord groups I was in or whatever. But I realized I wanted to hire that a lot more just because I mean, you want to make sure you're profitable even with all those fees. And I made a lot of money last year, at least for someone my age. But I just wanted, like, I knew my skills were up there and I have like a lot of experience in my categories, and I wanted to challenge myself to find better things. And that's exactly what I've done this year.
Nice.
So I love talking about scaling.
Yep.
I find it interesting. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit. You're growing really fast, like we mentioned. And what we like to do is, what we think is helpful is to kind of segment the scaling, going from 0 to 50,000 and then 50,000 up to, maybe 100 or 200,000. Can you talk about, and maybe walk us through these different stages, these different plateaus that you can hit, and what it takes to get to each level?
Yeah, so 0 to 10 was basically just me and my network of them sending me a bunch of stuff. I was just spending money, and I got to 10K pretty quickly just by like hanging out with the boys and buying the same thing as them. From 10 to 50 was like the big difference maker in the business, and that's when I realized I can scale it to as high as I want to, just because I got more active on social media. I saw the people pumping like 100 to 1 million a month. And I'm like, this is insane. And then I picked up retail arbitrage a lot more because there was this really good outlet near me, and it just ran like nonstop sales. And I realized if I can go in and get 30 pairs every single day from a Nike outlet, I mean, I can do a good amount of revenue and like a good amount of profit as well if I just keep going. And then I bring bodies with me over, like, as I keep scaling and scaling and scaling. So I really got up to like, I really went from like 10 to 60K a month, but mainly retail arbitrage, and then like some OA at night.
Nice. What changes from 50K to where you are now? Is it just volume? Is it, do you have to go deeper? Are you, sourcing wider? What's kind of the difference to be able to get to that next level?
Going a lot deeper is definitely a big part. You need more inventory to sell more. And then you also have to figure out what sites actually allow bulk and want your money and don't really care to cancel you, because that makes your life a lot easier. If I can go order from a site tomorrow that lets me place 20K in a day, that's a lot more pain-free than a site that I have to place like 2 units per just to get my orders through.
I don't know how often you kind of maybe step back and just kind of take a look at your overall business, but there always seems to be like this 80-20. The 80% of the results come from 20% of the inputs. And I'm curious, do you know what the 80-20 is in your business?
It's probably the retailers I'm buying from. I do go pretty wide, so maybe let's say for numbers, I buy from 25 stores. That 80% of my revenue is probably coming from the 20% of stores. So like those same 5 stores that actually let me like hammer bulk and let me get the units I want. So I think that's what it is in my business.
Nice.
So now you talked about when you're talking about scaling, you said you brought bodies and it took, it took some extra hands to get the inventory from the store back to where you, will prep and ship.
Yep.
As far as prep and ship, did you are you using a prep center, or do you have team members, or are you prepping all this stuff yourself?
During the retail arbitrage days, it was just me and my college buddies. They live across the street from me. They would come with me. They would help me prep it, and we'll get it out the same day most of the time, if not the next day. But now, and then as of like the last year or so, I have a prep center. I send all of my online arbitrage stuff to. One in New Jersey, just because they're tax-free in sneakers and apparel. And then I have another one in New Hampshire for all my tax stuff.
Nice. Do you have any VA team members? Anybody online helping you?
Yeah, I have an admin VA that I've had for about 18 or 19 months now. And that's, again, I got it with my my sneaker buddies. And we just split the cost of, like, oh, it's only like $100 a month if we all split it. And then we didn't know how to train. We're all like anywhere from like 18 to 22 years old or something like that. We didn't know how to train like any members. So we're like, let's just figure this out together. It's not going to cost us a whole lot, and we'll get some help out of this. So I have an admin VA I've had for 18 or 9 months now. A couple guys dropped off from that, so it's just me and Jack. Like I mentioned, it's just me and him sharing it right now. And then I recently brought on another sourcing VA. She went through some training of like basic Keepa, seller amp stuff. And tonight's actually the first night I'm going to work with her, showing her some like loops and like giving her a bunch of advanced information to work with.
Nice. What does the training look like? Is that are you hands on with that yourself, or is there a course that you put them through, or what does that look like?
My buddy Jack has like a VA hiring placement agency, so he has a lead VA named Grace, and she just does all the training, like all the basic training and like intermediate training. And now she's at the point, because we did hire her like 2 weeks ago. She's at the point where now I have to like introduce certain sites, evergreen coupons, like a bunch of like advanced stuff to give her so she can have like an easier time finding leads.
I'm always curious when it comes to having, like someone who sources for you and things like that. Are you just paying like a straight hourly wage or a salary, or do you have some sort of structure in place to make sure that their incentives align with kind of what you want done in your business?
Yeah, I'm trying to get better with the incentives. Right now, it's just hourly, and then for Stephanie, admin fee I have now. It was just like random like gifts and bonuses like over the span of like random milestones. So like 6 months we got her like an ergonomics chair. 1 year we got her like new monitors she wanted, and then last month, I sent her extra money on Wise for her salary to take her and her family out to some nice dinner that opened up in their town. So I just random like gifts and things to keep them motivated over time. But in terms of like the incentives, and I know like other people like pay like 1% commissions or random commissions for the sourcing fees they do have. I'm still working out the kinks for that stuff.
Perfect. Yeah, you're a young guy. You grew up with technology.
Yep.
I would imagine you probably try to automate some things in your business, and that way you can focus on growing. What have you automated, if anything?
Not much at all, really, except for like I use ChatGPT here and there for like templates to Amazon. Like I'll do that, or if it's like math I don't really want to do. Like if it's I don't know, if I'm using like two different discounted gift cards at two different prices, or like percents off, and then they are two different prices, it gets annoying to do that math. I might just put into ChatGPT, give it some criteria to start with, and then go from there to see like what percent I'm actually getting off or dollar amount.
Nice.
We're all about outsourcing the math on this show
Yeah.
too, so
Yeah.
we can get behind that. Cash flow. We haven't brought up cash flow yet. It's a very important topic. You're obviously scaling right now. You're not pulling any profits out. So is that the extent of the scaling? Is it literally just pumping the profits back in, or how do you manage cash flow?
It's just pumping the profits back in, and then there's other things you can do as well. One thing we didn't mention with the retail arbitrage thing that I forgot to mention is I was doing a lot of FBM too, like a lot of FBM, and I had the Plum card as well. So I have a tweet like RA plus FBM, and a Plum card can take you like a far away, and that's literally what built my business for the most part. Because it was Nike sneakers that were pretty like quick moving. I was getting good discounts. I had a relationship with the employees there, and I was just turning over capital so quickly that I could just get the items. I could list the same day, get the sale same day, get paid out in like a week or two or whatever it is, and take that money and go do it again and again and again and again.
The velocity of money. We're no strangers to that, right, Chris?
No, absolutely. Yeah, so I want to touch on a topic you just brought up there. You talked about relationships.
Yep.
And what has worked for you in building like relationships with store employees and things like that?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. One, I randomly got approached by a Nike employee of like, hey, what are you doing? Can you help me out? So I send them like your podcast, I send them Buy Box Bandits, send them Miles Warner, and in exchange for helping them out, they would give me like my extra 15% off in the Nike store, because my store didn't really like that because I was buying bulk and I was there every single day. So if the manager was there, they didn't like that a lot. But if it was just me and that employee, like they didn't really care to give me the extra 15% off. And then the other part, because I do have relationships with other stores as well, it's just being friendly and talking to them. Like, just be like a normal human being. And like, I don't know, maybe show up with like Dunkin' Donuts or like whatever. Like, just be a good person, show that you appreciate them and all that stuff. And they're going to be willing to help you back out later.
Nice. Yeah, it really is a pretty simple process. People just don't want to do it all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm curious. I know you're not pulling any profits out. We didn't ask if you like if you pay yourself a salary or anything, but how do you kind of balance the need to keep cash flowing with needing to also maintain profit margins, and I guess how do you kind of make that work?
Yeah, it's tough, and what really helped me a lot is just being like very strict with your criteria. If you try to lower your criteria just for scale, and then you notice, because this happened to me, that my margin goes down a little bit more than what I'm comfortable with, and then you have to reassess the business like we were talking about and realize, hey, I got to bump that criteria back up to get to where I want to be, because it's not always worth scaling for that extra revenue if it means you're going to make less money.
Hmm. Do you have any rules, like, if something didn't work out the way I wanted it to, on 30 days or 60 days, I'm liquidating this, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, I'm pretty on top of it with repricing. If I see something downtrending because the offer count's shooting up and maybe it was a lead that was extremely hard to find, I'll probably just get out of it like earlier than that 30 days, to be honest. Because like a good example I can give is a Nike sale. If you're buying from a Nike sale that's normally their first on gate. It's normally the first site they're looking at. If the price starts to decline because a Nike shoe you bought went on sale, and it's probably going to go down and stay down for a very long time, a few months, I'll probably try to get like ahead of the curve and get rid of it earlier. In terms of like normal products that weren't too hard to find, but for whatever reason, like they are going down, someone's price tanking, one of those bigger guys just dropped the price. I try to assess all the situations of like, okay, it's been 30 to 45 days. I want my money back. I need to cash flow it. Regardless, if I take a loss here, it's going to mean I get my money back and I can go make money again with my next buy. But yeah, things like that. So get ahead of the curve if I do see it downtrending for a long period of time. And then if it's been an extended period of time, like 30 to 45 days, I'll try to liquidate.
So I want to talk a little bit about time management.
Mhm.
It's something I struggle with. A lot of entrepreneurs do, because you're responsible for literally everything. But yet at the same time, you've talked about, Soros and outsourcing, and, kind of getting this stuff locked into little segments of the day to free up time. So how do you balance it? Because I mean, obviously sourcing is the most important, and then you've got that pocket of sourcing, but there's a whole lot of other stuff. Seems like there's always something I could be doing. That's kind of like the persistent guilt that when I'm about to turn the TV on or something, that's always the thought
Yeah.
that pops up into my head. So how do you manage your time as far as all the plates that we have to keep spinning?
Yeah, I like to put everything on a Google Calendar at least the night before, but hopefully like plan out my week of what I need to get done on what days I think I'm going to have more time there. And then obviously the most important part of Amazon is the sourcing. So if I can knock that out right in the beginning of the day, my admin VA handles basically all of my admin tasks at this point. So it's really just like sourcing and repricing for me. And if I can get that done earlier in the day, I mean, I have a lot of free time for the rest of the day. And the Amazon thing is like an infinite game. You can always be sourcing more. You can always tweak this process. You can always tweak that process. But that's why I like having like an open time during the night, so I can go figure things out or go talk to new people.
Now that the admin VA, is that admin can like kind of be a nebulous kind of word. Is the VA handling like account health for you and the whole shebang?
Yeah, basically everything. So like reconciliation, making sure my credit card statements, I'll send her the PDF, making sure that's matched up with my buy sheet of everything. She runs the buy sheet. Seller report cost of goods. I don't feel like inputting all those cost of goods, so she does that right from the buy sheet. Account health, she has access. We forward the emails from the like Amazon emails for like account health stuff. We forward it to her business email. It's set up like that. And whenever, let's say I get it inauthentic in the middle of the night, she'll just go into our Google Drive. I have everything documented very well. So order confirmations, everything that comes through that email gets saved as a PDF. It gets drag and dropped into a Google Drive. The Google Drive has every invoice from everything I've ever bought from. So like it's categorized by retailer, and then it's named by the date I bought it and the ASIN. So if something comes up, let's say it's a random Nike shoe and the ASIN comes up in our email, if that's the inauthentic claim, she'll literally just go pull it, PDF it nicely for me, and it's ready to go for the morning.
That's great. Yeah, something that I'm always curious about is how, you talked about you have a lot of free time in the afternoons, things like that.
Mhm.
I'm always curious how business owners, spend their free time. Are there particular hobbies? Are there things you're trying to learn? What what do you do with with your afternoons?
Yeah, it's normally just trying to figure out stuff in the Amazon business. Like I'm in it. Like this is my business. Like I care about it a lot. I want to scale. I want to be one of the better OA guys, have a massive store and all that stuff. So I do spend a lot of time talking to others. I spend a lot of time in like the live streams you guys put on, or like other ones as well. Listen to podcasts a lot. Um, I like going to the gym, hang out with my friends. I'm still in college, right? So those are typically how my afternoons look.
Nice. Uh, there's always a bottleneck of some sort as we grow. What bottlenecks have you encountered in your business?
Yeah, one that I recently solved was purchasing. Purchasing was taking a lot more time than actual sourcing for me. So I have an admin VA, or the same admin VA is also purchasing too.
Hmm.
I don't have 8 hours worth of admin tasks per day, so she spends like the other half purchasing per day. And then the other one that's, I mean, probably a bottleneck for most too is capital. Like, I'm trying to get to the next level of 300, 400, half a million a month. And I just think that takes time of me just compounding my profits. If I can delay my gratification, make those profits, keep it in the business as long as I can, I mean, I'm going to get to the numbers I'm after.
Nice. Eh, So one of the things I know a lot of people are going to be curious about is uh, tons of people would love to have a VA who goes out and does purchasing for them as well.
Mhm.
How did you get to that point? And do you've just grown and trust your VA and give them your American Express number, or do you do anything to protect yourself from a little bit of fraud, or maybe buying herself a Louis Vuitton bag and shipping it over to herself?
Yeah, it was tough for me to let go, like very, very, very tough, and that's why it took me a long time to get to outsource it. But that same admin VA I've had for 18 or 19 months, I trust her. I've talked to her most days since she's been on board, at least during the weekdays. I trust her. I know she wouldn't do anything, so it was literally just me getting her a buy sheet. Oh, here's what to buy, and here's the card, and here's the address and stuff.
Nice.
Hey, I'm curious. Have you run into anything? Because it sounds like you source and you find stuff, especially if you're on a deal or something like that. And I
Mhm.
know Nike stuff can run out of stock. Are there times where things on the buy list are out of stock by the time your VA gets to it?
Yeah, it happens here and there, but I typically do have a sense of if this is going out of stock, I'm just gonna buy it. But then if you're using like evergreen coupons on a low key website, like that's probably gonna stay in stock for a couple days, and I don't mind putting it on the buy sheet to get purchased whenever she does hop on.
Sure. I tell you, that's a testament to, it's a lot of trust in a VA, but it's also testament to the training that you put into a VA, because the more competent they are, the
Yeah,
more valuable they are to your business, that frees up valuable time to, you know, actually go to college and have a social life and whatnot. You
yeah.
talk to some of these people that are grinding, sun up to sundown and beyond. Um, so I want to talk about, we touched on the beauty restrictions, um, and of course we talked about how much we appreciate your positivity, and because we could tend to focus on the negative. So I'm curious, what do you see in the next like 3 to 5 years, as far as reselling on Amazon? How do you see the landscape changing over the next 3 to 5?
Yeah, I do think a lot more brands are going to get gated, but I mean, that's just staying ahead of the curve. That's just staying in categories and brands that are safer than others. Like if we know beauty's starting to get like shut down over time, okay, I'm pivoting early. I'm getting out of it. I don't know. Just trying to read the signs and like talk to a bunch of people of what they're doing to stay ahead of the curve is pretty necessary. I think to be in business for another 3 to 5 years. Um, Things like that, and then I think that's really it. Just talking to a bunch of people and like having your ear to the ground and like just staying out of the curves.
Well, you talk. What about sneakers in general? Because I know there's a lot of people that became very, very popular. It's a very
Yep.
attractive thing, not just even on Amazon, like how you started with StockX and Goat and whatnot. But yet you have the other side. Nike's numbers are down. There's a bunch of speculation that maybe they're going to jump back on Amazon, go the D2C route. eBay has their authentication.
Hmm.
They've put more obstacles in the way. Is that do you do you still see sneakers being resellable 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I'm not worried at all. Like, I am not worried at all. If people start pivoting and guys above me start pivoting away from Nike, so be it. There's so many other brands. Adidas does more revenue than Nike per month. New Balance is up there. Puma's a very big brand. And there's so many other brands that not a lot of people know about. But I'm just spending my time in the weeds of, hey, this big seller's brought on a new brand. I've never heard of it before. Let me go down this rabbit hole and try to figure out what they're doing, where they're getting it from, what coupons are they using, and just go down that rabbit hole over and over and over and over. And if less people are selling it, there's probably a lot of money to be made there. So I'm not worried about any brand. I don't really discriminate on what category or brand I'm selling, as long as I can make money and profit.
I'm sure that I know you talk to a bunch of people, and I'm sure that people ask you for advice on a regular basis. So what is one or maybe even two pieces of advice that you would give to someone who has either just started selling on Amazon or is looking to take the leap?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to take the leap, just get into it. Like, at least try it out, get your proof of concept. And if you don't like it, then there's plenty of other business models out there. But I mean, what I will say, like, to get started to make your first like 10K profit a month, I really do think Amazon's like the easiest one. It's such a big marketplace. They sold like what 600 billion last year. Like, that's insanity. A lot of these categories are massive and they sell themselves. It's just up to you to find it profitably. So if you are on the fence, like, just give it a shot. Like, um, it's a very good business and it's very easy to scale up, in my opinion. And then as far as like the questions I get the most, it's typically how deep should I go? How much should I buy? And for the most part, what I like to recommend is just test buy a lot. Like, test buy a lot, test buy a lot, test buy a lot. And as you're in the game for a long period of time, now you have all that data to go look back on later to make like an educated buy to go deeper for the next time.
Yeah. Any other common questions that you get repeatedly?
That and then just like normal sourcing questions of how do I go about it. But we mentioned it already, but just reverse sourcing until you understand these brands or these retailers, and then you can double down on those and you can move more into manual.
So what are some things that you're personally trying to improve on? Are there any weaknesses that you've identified that you're trying to shore up?
Um, Probably getting better at certain systems, because if I do want to go like the Soros route of outsourcing most of my business, which is where I'm headed, to be honest, just getting better like these SOPs and like being a good like leader, a good owner, and training these VAs is like proper and like giving them as much information as possible to make their lives easier and to get done what I want to get done, how I want it to get done, basically.
In the past couple of months, are there any books or podcasts or blogs that like had a significant impact on you or how you run your business?
Yeah, to be quite honest, this one was pretty huge. You guys had on some like big guys recently and just opened my eyes even further. Jeff, mostly OA. I'm like, maybe I can get to like 200, 300K a month, and that'll be like the cream of the crop. And that's like a good number I can stay at or stabilize that and just be happy with those profits. That dude's doing 25 million a year. Then you have Jassam, Eli, Sam. You just have all these massive guys, and they're just super inspiring. So this podcast has been huge for me. And then my first million, like, looking forward to, because those are like real entrepreneurs with a lot of money. And I want to be like some of those guys in the future. So it's nice to hear. And then I always have it playing in the background while I'm sourcing. So it's nice to get that information and like do purchases and whatever.
Nice. I happen to be a My First Million mega fan. So if Sam and
Yeah.
Sean happen to stumble upon this episode and want to chat, DMs are always open. Uh, do you happen to have a favorite episode or maybe a top 3 episodes
For this one or for my
for
first
My
million?
First Million?
Oh, I like Andrew Wilkinson a lot. That guy is very smart, a ton of insights. I really, really, really like basically all of his episodes, because he does have quite a few.
Yeah. When I grow up, I want to have a holdco like he does. It's insane.
Yeah.
So we always kind of finish up with people are going to want to find you. They're going to want to maybe reach out to you. Where should people go and look for you and any content that you've created?
Yeah, it's just Sadeq Wahab right here on basically all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. That the basically my handles.
Nice. And you run a Discord as well, don't you? What's the name of your Discord?
Yeah, it's just launch Amazon. Just a free Discord. There's no paid option. It's just for you guys to go meet and network with other guys. The same guys I started Amazon with. I literally met all of them in a Discord randomly one night, and we just chatted. We were all doing like sneakers, and then those are the guys I still talk to every single day now. So
awesome. All right, last question, and we'll wrap this thing. We'll put a little bow on this thing. Do you have your admin VA do any of your homework?
No.
Okay. All right.
I wish.
I would. So I wish that had been a thing when I was in school. So we always like to end up with a quote of the week, and this one is from Kevin Kelly, and it's 10 to the small things. Most people are defeated by blisters more than by mountains, and kind of have seen that quite a bit here lately. But Sadeq, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. This was fun.
Appreciate it. You guys for having me on.
All right, guys, make sure to catch the next episode, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to Clear the Shelf with Chris and Chris. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a screenshot on your phone and share to Facebook, Instagram, or your favorite FBA group, and be sure to tag me and let me know why you liked it and what you'd like to hear more from us in the future. Also, I'd like to give you some free gifts for listening. Head over to rabbittrailchallenge.com and repricerchallenge.com for some free courses to further your business. Thanks for listening.